The night the town of Qadirpur forgot how to sleep began with the azan echoing strangely, stretched and warped as if the air itself was holding its breath, and people later swore that the voice calling from the mosque was not the imams but something older, something that had learned the sound of prayer without ever understanding mercy. And I remember it clearly because that was the night my father locked every door, covered every mirror, and whispered verses he had not spoken in years. His hands shaking as if he already knew what was coming, because Qadirpur was built on land that had never been empty, only silent. A silence forced deep into the soil long before houses were raised. And when the silence finally broke, it did not scream, it listened, learning our routines, our fears, our names. And it started with children waking up at exactly 3:17 a.m., sitting straight up in their beds with their eyes open but unseeing, their mouths moving as if reciting something backward. Mothers finding them cold and damp like they had been standing in fog. And when asked what they saw, the children all described the same thing in different words. A man with no face standing at the edge of their rooms, wearing the shape of shadow but breathing like a sick animal, counting them slowly on long fingers that bent the wrong way. And at first the elders said it was mass hysteria. Then they said it was Jinn. Then they stopped saying anything at all. Because the old banyan tree at the edge of town began bleeding sap the color of rust, and animals refused to cross near it, and the dogs howled until their throats gave out. And one morning the schoolteacher was found nailed to his classroom wall without a single wound on his body. His mouth stretched open so wide his jaw had cracked. His eyes burned black. And written on the board behind him in chalk none of us owned were the words "we were counted wrong." And fear spread faster than explanation, swallowing logic, faith, and pride, until people began disappearing between Maghrib and Fajr, leaving behind rooms that smelled of wet earth and iron, beds still warm, doors still locked from the inside, and every disappearance was followed by the same mark carved somewhere nearby, a crude symbol like an eye crossed with a ladder. And when my younger sister Aisha started whispering to someone who wasn't there, answering questions no one asked, smiling at corners of the room, my mother cried silently into her prayer mat, while my father sharpened a kitchen knife that would be useless against what was coming. And Aisha told us in a calm voice that the man without a face said the town was built on a doorway, that long ago something had been sealed beneath the banyan tree by blood and recitation. But the seal was imperfect because humans are imperfect, because fear always leaves cracks, and now the thing beneath was waking, not to destroy the world, but to finish counting what it was promised, because it feeds on attention, on being acknowledged, on being remembered. And the more we feared it, the more solid it became. And the imam tried to lead a ruqya for the entire town, but halfway through the recitation his voice began answering itself, verse and response coming from the walls, the floor, the people, until he collapsed coughing up dirt and beetles, and the mosque lights shattered, plunging us into darkness broken only by the sound of something large moving above the ceiling. And that night the sky over Qadirpur looked bruised, stars dimmed as if covered by skin, and everyone heard footsteps outside their doors, slow, deliberate, stopping just long enough to be sure you were listening. And if you opened the door, you were never seen again. But if you didn't, you could hear breathing on the other side until sunrise, and the breathing knew your name, spoke it softly, lovingly, as if it had known you before you were born. And I would have left the town then if the roads had not twisted back on themselves, if every path out had not led back to the banyan tree, larger now, its roots cracking the earth like fingers clawing up from a grave. And one by one the elders confessed the truth, that decades ago children had gone missing here too, that a ritual had been performed using innocent blood to bind something ancient, something that promised protection in exchange for silence. And Qadirpur had prospered while the thing slept, and now it was awake and angry and hungry. And when the final night came, when the moon hung so low it looked like it might fall, the ground split open beneath the banyan tree, and something climbed out that hurt to look at, a shape that kept rearranging itself, faces pressing out of its surface screaming without sound, eyes opening and closing like wounds, and the man without a face stood beside it, finally turning toward the town. finally letting us see that where his face should have been was a mirror reflecting each of us as we truly were, terrified, guilty, complicit. And he spoke without moving his mouth, telling us the count was almost complete, that the doorway was open, that what was sealed would now walk freely in dreams and dark places. And the town tried to run, but you cannot run from something that lives in your fear. And when dawn finally came, Qadirpur was gone from the maps, from the records, from memory, except for me. Writing this with hands that still smell of soil, because the thing let one of us go to be remembered, to be read, to be believed. Because every time you imagine this place, every time you feel afraid reading these words, every time you look at a shadow a second too long, the count continues, and somewhere something is smiling without a face, knowing it is closer now than it has ever been before.